Welcome to the video on how I help men prevent divorce, part 12, removing covert contracts. So today we're talking about covert contracts, one of the biggest hidden reasons men become resentful during reconciliation. So a covert contract is when you unconsciously believe, if I do this, so if I do XYZ, she should respond this way. Examples are, if I improve myself, she should come back. If I become calmer, she should appreciate me immediately. If I stop reacting, she should reconnect emotionally. The problem with that thinking, is that your growth becomes emotionally transactional and determined on her responses. This will fail every time. Your change needs to be identity-based, which means you're doing things because your actions have to align with what's valuable to you. That's the difference. As soon as you externalize your behavior and your ability to continue on in a behavior, it will fail every time, especially with a wife who's emotionally checked out and you're facing the possibility of separation or divorce. So you need to choose, who am I going to be? What man do I want to become? And I then align my actions with that. Why does this matter? Because when your self-improvement, which you have to go through this process to save your marriage and prevent divorce. You have to go through this process of self-improvement. Now, when you go through that process and it secretly depends on getting emotional validation from her, pressure is what she is going to feel. Pressure will enter the interactions. And pressure is exactly what makes reconciliation impossible. Because underneath your behavior, underneath your words, is a hidden expectation. The contract that you have that she knows nothing about. She feels that pressure immediately and she feels that pressure emotionally. And she will remove herself from that. She will distance herself further. So what do? We need to become outcome independent. Real growth is not outcome dependent. So we don't do something to get something. We do something because that's our identity. That's the difference here. This is really the difference between separation and divorce and reconciliation. So true growth, real change, is I'm becoming emotionally stronger. I'm becoming a different man because this is who I need to become regardless of this immediate outcome I'm searching for. That energy is different. That energy changes all your communication. That energy to her feels grounded. It feels safe. Covert contracts feel emotionally manipulative. Even if you don't intend to be manipulative, because this is something you have to understand. A lot of guys going through this process have a ton of blind spots that are making their situation worse, and covert contracts are one of those. So you need to remove expectations of her behavior and her responses. It's simply doing the work on yourself and detach from the outcome and follow the process. The earlier on you can make that shift, everything can change for you. So what do we need to stop doing to implement these changes and stop operating with a covert contract in the background? Stop keeping emotional scorecards. Stop improving yourself purely to get immediate emotional validation and responses from her. Stop becoming resentful when change does not instantly create reconciliation or reconnection with her. Stop treating emotional growth, your journey towards becoming your best version as a negotiation based off her reactions and responses to your change. Many guys I've worked with, especially early on, unknowingly communicate this energy. I've made a bunch of changes, so now you owe me emotional investment. I'll say that again. A lot of guys that come into my program, especially early on, they make a bunch of changes and they get caught in the covert contract where now she should start reinvesting. Now she owes me emotional investment, and they're going back into that outcome trap, the outcome-based thinking. Instead of process-driven thinking, they're focused on outcomes. Instead of what's the process for the outcome to come to me. Process, consistency. Not because I'm trying to get this outcome, because that'll fail every time. You have to focus on, this is the man that saves his marriage. So I have to embody that identity, and I have to be consistent with that, irrespective of her response. That's where the real change occurs. So if you don't do that, and you demand that she validates your changes, that's going to create huge emotional pressure for her. And again, pressure is the antithesis to safety. Pressure is the opposite to where you want to go. You want to move towards reconciliation, you need to remove all pressure. Even in the blind spots, you need to understand how you might not have the intention of pressuring, but it still is interpreted that way by her perspective, from her perspective. And every single time, pressure will force her to move further away. So the key here is to change your why. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this process of change? Now, her saying that she wants space, separation, or a divorce may be the catalyst to that change. But you need to make the switch from, I'm doing this for her, to, I want to become my best version, irrespective of her response. And you genuinely have to mean that. That's the guy who saves his marriage. I've seen it over and over and over again. The hundreds of guys I've coached. The guys who save their marriages make that shift. They want to be their best versions. They are honest with themselves in regards to their values, their non-negotiables, and they align their daily actions with the man they want to become, irrespective of her response. Because her response is guaranteed. She's going to respect you eventually. She's going to trust you eventually. She's going to feel that safety eventually, because it's your own standard. It's who you are. It's your identity. The key is to make that shift early on from outcome focused on, I need this now, I need her to show me that, we're moving in the right direction, towards forget the external, the things I can't control, and let's focus what I can control. My daily behavior, moving towards that process every single day. So the key here is that if your growth is attached to expectation from someone else, you're still operating from a codependent frame. Emotional dependence. How do we implement this now? How do we become outcome independent? And how do we become, someone who can rebuild their identity and then their actions align with that identity? The first step here is to really focus on becoming a stronger man for yourself first. How do we do that? We have to develop our emotional regulation and build what's called emotional frame. You can't let your emotions control your actions anymore. That needs to become a non-negotiable. My actions don't control my emotions don't control my actions. My motivation doesn't control my actions. I become disciplined. And I follow through on what I said I was going to do. This builds self-esteem and it builds character. So you develop leadership by leading yourself first. And you need to detach from immediate emotional rewards from her, immediate validation from her, immediate, that pat on the back that you're looking for from her. You need to detach from that regarding your growth. So you need to remind yourself constantly, healthy change, the change required to save your marriage, is not conditional. It needs to be part of your identity now. You need to make that identity change. So the strongest transformations, that I've seen, happen every single time when it becomes identity based instead of outcome based. I do this because that's who I am, not because I'm seeking an outcome. Now, to get to that identity, you have to be consistent with your habits on a daily basis. And emotionally grounded men who really change their situations and move towards reconciliation, they improve themselves regardless of external validation. So here's the key points and recap of this video. It's extremely important that you understand this. Okay, covert contracts are hidden expectations. If I change, she should respond in a certain way by a certain amount of time. This will keep you stuck in a reactive loop, which further destroys the safety in the relationship. The one thing you need to rebuild it without fail, the foundation has to be laid, which is emotional safety. Growth becomes unhealthy when it's tied to external validation. You have to validate yourself. Did I do what I said I was going to do? Yes, good job. Did I do what I said I was going to do? No, why not? If you continue to hide your expectations from her and have these hidden covert contracts, if I do XYZ, she's going to do XYZ, and she knows nothing about that, it's going to create huge pressure, especially during reconciliation. If you're trying to save your marriage, you cannot do this because she's going to feel pressured, and people remove themselves from pressure. But the masculine is comfortable in the uncomfortable. Another key point here, keeping score or expecting quick results leads to emotional dependence. I did this for her, she should start doing this for me. I did this, I should get this result. You're not emotionally self-sufficient. And it's going to destroy the safety in the relationship for her. True growth is identity-based. It's not outcome-based. Identity-based versus outcome-based thinking. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the reason? Is it because who you are? Or am I looking for that validation externally? So, emotionally grounded men improve themselves regardless of external validation. This ties into what's called the paradox of change in the program. And if you're basing your growth and your changes on her responses, you will fail every single time because women are programmed to test. She's going to make things harder before they get better. So think about that. If you make all these changes and she's making things even more difficult, you're going to emotionally implode instead of focusing on that process. And you blast through the paradox of change and you come out the other side and she says, wow, see the changes, they're real. It's not a mask. I'm willing to work on things again. That's how it works. So healthy growth is for you to really identify, who do I want to become? And why am I doing XYZ to reach that point? Not to try and control someone else's response.